Come on in, get seated, get comfortable. Hello, Patricia. Come on in. We're going to talk some more about finding deals. Mo, you can come on up. Come on in, Mary Hart. All right, hey guys. Come in a minute. I want you on stage in a minute. Oh, get my knees out. All right. You guys are working hard on your relational capital, which is good, which is networking and getting to know each other, right? Get to know each other. Get deals done. Who are the wholesalers in the room? Come on up, Kevin. Okay, I mean, if you guys have deals with you, and you can print them out, you can like tape them to the wall or something. Sorry, with me. We can create capital that way for you guys. There are definitely a lot of people looking for deals in this room, without a doubt. So it's good. It's good stuff here. There we go. Close out some windows. All right, we got Cindy. Walter, awesome, good. Walter's so knowledgeable in so many areas. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about finding deals and making sellers feel comfortable and about building rapport and negotiating, okay? So I'm just going to sort of hand the mic down the chairs and you can either give a tip on building rapport or negotiating or finding deals. Is that all right? Start with you, Amon, because you're doing a lot of volume in Philadelphia.
Right, so my name is Iman. I'm from the city of Philadelphia, and that's the market that I market in. So what was the first question, Jim?
You're really good at building rapport. How you doing?
Well, to give you, here's a really good example. I'm a big believer in building rapport. Rapport gets you very far, and I believe that building rapport accounts for most of, is the reason why I'm able to get I've been able to get the deals. I've been able to get the deals that I don't really do it much anymore. As I was telling Jim earlier, I have my students really working the phones, but when I was doing it, it was rapport. So to give you a great example that sticks out for me, there was a woman that responded to my marketing. I used to live in North Jersey. I lived in Essex County. She lived in Passaic County, which was a neighboring county. Prior to me calling her, I looked her up on the tax assessor site, and her husband's first and middle name was the same as my father's, who's sitting over there, Joseph Eugene. So when I spoke to her, she told me 2 or 3 people had already contacted her, or about the property, this, that, and the other. The moment that I told her I lived in Essex County, I kid you not, it seemed like the walls came down immediately. You know what I'm saying? Because we connected. So, I tell anybody that, find a way to authentically connect with whoever you're talking to. I don't mean, go out on a limb. I graduated from Overbrook High School. So, or the person lives in whatever section of the city it is. Oh, I grew up a couple blocks from there. I went to such and such high school. Make it, you want to be natural with, what it is that you're connecting with people on. So she, as I said, the walls came down, and she told me that her mother had cancer, and she was about to take her mother to the wound care center. I said, wow, my mother, who's a breast cancer survivor, also had to go to the wound care center, right? So these were all things, I didn't have to reach for any of this stuff. And I also told her that my father said, interesting thing, I see that your husband's name is Joseph Eugene. That's my father's first and middle name as well. So you know what, she said, you know what, I'm gonna go with you. Forget those other guys. And we sat on the phone for a little while. Just this last thing that, a lot of times people, want to rush off the phone and on to the next person. I'm not a believer in that. Take time to build a relationship, and it'll carry you very far, so.
Okay. Okay, people want to do deals with people they can relate to, I think is sort of the top part of that story. They can relate to you, you can find something in common, whether it's football or sports or kids or trips or names, locations where you've lived. They'll open up a little bit more to you. I want to skip over to Walter for a minute. And just because we've heard from Kevin quite a bit, I just want to talk a little bit about talking to sellers about financing your houses, because you've done it more than anybody I know.
Hart, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, and we tend to buy houses from people that don't have any debt on them. I'd say 9 out of 10. So we're marketing to older folks, and so I'm usually in there talking to, usually it's a survivor of a marriage, either a husband or a wife. And every time the house has deferred maintenance. So they're going to have to spend some money, and they know that. I never beat up a house. They already know what's wrong with the house. I just said, what can I do for you? And I would say probably 1 out of 10 people I ask for seller financing I get. And it's, it's favorable terms on what the house can afford. Now, you got to structure the payment back. If I rent it, then it's got to be able to pay back. And we've done many 0% interest loans. And I give 0% interest loans. And I tell folks, and this is honest, a statement, I'll sign either side of my contract. I'll do whatever if you want me to do something for you on the same terms, I'll do it. And so when you have that attitude, it kind of comes across, well, I don't care which side of the contract, I'm happy with it. I give non-recourse loans. Okay? I'll sell to people in trust. I'll give 0% interest. So I'm not afraid to ask somebody for it. Anything else? Negotiation, going back to that question, let me, everybody has to adopt their own style that has to do with their age and experience. My 2 sons that are in the business don't have my style. They have a whole different, they couldn't come in and say, I always take the lighter side of the negotiation when I'm talking with a family member. I really don't care if we make a deal there. I'm more interested in what they have for lunch. That's my attitude. What you got to eat? It's time to eat. And when you come in with that kind of attitude, it kind of makes things easier. And if I'm dealing with this demographic, and typically they may be 80 years old, and so I might be dealing with an elderly mom and one of her family members, and I look up on the wall and I see World War II stuff. Well, I know something. I like World War II stuff. And so oh, where did he serve? Where did he get that flag? And so all of a sudden somebody's asking something that's really important to her. And so that's how you develop rapport. Yeah, if you ever get a guy or a gal that are you here to cheat me out of my house? That kind of, have you had some of those people before? The best thing that you can do is say, just a minute, I got to get something out of my car, and go get in the car and leave. Just don't say a word, because you're not going to get anywhere with that person. But I'll tell you something, when you do have somebody that's a horse trader on the other side, and you know who they are, somebody that really is good at trading, and you recognize that fact. I do. And I appreciate people that have good negotiation skills. So I usually start out and say, well, what's the most you'd take? Let's get that out of the way. They'd say, oh, $1 million. I said, well, I'm not going to give you that. Okay, well, let's get back to it.
All right. Good stuff. All right, Cindy, tell me about a recent deal you've done. You've got a lot of deal flow, and maybe how you found it, What happened when you met with them and signed the contract? How did the conversation go? I'm really putting people on the spot here.
I'm Cindy. I'm also from Jackson, Mississippi, and this is my second time to come to Jim's class. And 2 years ago when I came by, I never could have imagined getting to sit on the stage and have the experience to share with y'all. So this is a great group of people to be around. I would say most of my deals that I find are through websites, Investor Carrot websites that Jim brought. I know a lot of people do that, and I don't do any Google AdWords. I could do a lot better with the website. But in most of the deals, I thought the other day, I've got a few now, I've never even met the people. I've talked to them on the phone, texted, or emailed. So that's totally different. We're in the same place, but we do things totally different. And as far as the negotiation part, I think that you just have to, like Walter's talking about seller financing, you just have to ask for it. Like in our contracts, we give them at least 2 or 3 options so they can pick and choose. And at least that opens the door, and then you can go further with that. And then the other thing I would say is be willing to walk away. Like you can just leave, like what's for dinner, you know. I had a guy that I've been negotiating with for a while on a house, and it was hard to get in there because people are kind of hoarders. And when we got in there, it was hard to see what the house looked like. But I used another thing that another guy in Jackson told me. He said, when you make your offer, if it doesn't make you sick at your stomach, then it's not low enough. So I sent this guy an email because I just couldn't make it work. I was going to sell it to somebody, wholesale it to somebody to let them flip it, to sell it retail. And there was a little foundation problem, so I was like, So I was talking to a buddy of mine in New Orleans, and Marcus, and I said, what do I do? He said, did you tell them their house is crappy? I was like, no, I didn't. Not in so many words. But so we were at $40,000. And I said, I just wrote him an email and said, look, I can't do it. I can't find a partner that's willing because of the cost. So I said, 30 is the least, that's the most I can offer you. And I was like, as soon as I hit send, I was like, I felt sick. So nothing, I didn't hear anything all weekend. Monday morning, he sends an email. He said, look, we're buying another house. How about 35? So, and I ended up keeping the house, but
What'd you buy it for?
35, yes, sir. So, but that's fine.
Could I have like one couple?
People, my experience is that people sell mostly for non-financial reasons. They don't want the house. It's not how much the price. They just don't want the problem. And particularly when you're dealing with probate and heirs, you know, they didn't have to earn the money to get. They want out of the trap or whatever they're in. So money, the price is always secondary to solving the problem that they got to get rid of this house. And then vacant houses attract vandals and lose things. And then so just realize that people, whatever number you throw out there, isn't the determining factor. It's solving the problem that they have.
I like to ask people, like, what's important to you in the sale of your house? And oftentimes they'll say that. Walter, I got a follow-up question for you. Do you have pushback from people that are older like that, 75, 85 years old, giving you seller financing over the next several years because of their age?
Well, why would somebody give seller financing? And let's just assume it's a primary residence. There's no tax benefit to them of financing to me. But if we're going to give them 5% interest, I compare it to what the bank will give them. Well, that's more, right? But the other thing is, there are a lot of hot buttons out there. Well, what's going to happen if you die? If I give you the money, what's going to happen? And they said, well, my daughter's going to spend it immediately. I said, well, would you like to provide some education dollars for your grandchild that bypasses your daughter's ability to get their hands on the cash? Yes, I'd like that. Well, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to write up this mortgage or deed of trust, and it's going to be payable for 10 years, and it won't be paid off. And when you pass away, we can put right in there that the money goes to your granddaughter. So it's solving, every grandmother's got this problem. There's somebody in the family that doesn't manage money very well. And there's somebody in the family that needs education dollars.
That's powerful. Doug Hatcher, come on up here real quick. Isn't that amazing? You got a follow-up question?
A question that if you can solve that, what would you do? It's a house that I know someone, the neighbor and neighborhood, they moved, a friend of mine, her neighbor is $450,000 a house worth. So I called and they moved and they just paid the taxes and everything, and I got in contact with her and I asked her if she's willing like to sell. She said, how do you, I talked to her about an hour and a half probably, and she said, they're all sick people who calls me and tries to sell it. I don't even care if I donate this house. We pay it and I don't care about it. And she was talking about this realtor, her best friend, that she tried to screw her around and all that. I let it go, and her husband is sick. He was a doctor. It just happened that I know a little bit of her. So it ended with nothing. And she said, I will donate the house before I will have all those people trying to push me to sell it. How would any of you will handle it to get it?
Walter, I guess this sort of follows back to what you were saying.
I tell them about my nonprofit. That I did I did that in '98, by the way.
And you said it for a nonprofit?
Yeah, no.
I would
Yeah.
donate it to the church. I don't care, but I don't want anybody trying to push me, and she was upset.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, until you've had a seller lean across the table after the closing and say, Walter, I'm so glad I met you because I couldn't find anybody to give this house to. All you can do is,
And I just left it alone, and I thought, as long as my soul in my body, because I didn't want to make her upset, more than what you were.
well, you may get a chance to buy it later. I've had multiple occasions where I'll make an offer to somebody and 2 years later, their heirs call me up and say, you made an offer to my mama. Well, is this still good? So go ahead and make a written offer. They'll stick it in the file. It's just timing.
Timing. All right, Cindy, you talked about walking away. And it triggered in my mind what happened with Doug and I on a duplex that he was wholesaling to me. And he was wholesaling it to me, but I was helping him finish the negotiation. Doug's one of my coaching students in Bank Elimination Blueprint. And Doug, what happened that day when we made the final offer? You want to tell the story?
Just from the beginning. Go ahead. Well, to play off what you guys saying about rapport, the lady ended up telling me that that's the reason why she did the deal with us, is because she liked us so much. And I complimented her motorcycle when I first met her, and I really think that's what got us. Anyways, so I got the lead yellow letter, and I met her that day. When I looked at the house, I didn't offer anything the day I met her, but I talked to her on the phone later that night, and I offered her something that she thought was too low. And then I hung up the phone and said, okay, I'm sorry, it's as low as I can go. And then she called me back 20 minutes later. I was like, hey, I actually really want to do this deal. I was like, okay, well, I was new to it at the time, and I didn't really know what to do. So I was like, well, let me get a contractor out there tomorrow so I can really get the repair costs down to a T. I didn't really know any contractors, so I called up Jim. I said, hey, Jim, I got this pretty good looking deal. We're going to come and check it out. And so he got there, looked at it, said he liked it, and he said, he's like, how do you want to do this? And I was like, well, since I don't have it under contract, why don't you just negotiate it? Because I know you did much better than me. So we're in the kitchen, we're negotiating the price. Jim wants like 96 and she wants like 120, and for like 10 minutes to go back and forth, and she's like wanting 115, Jim's like, no, 103 is what I want to do. And it actually got to about, they got to within $3,000 of each other, and Jim was like, nope, and she was like, they couldn't come to an agreement. So Jim was like, okay, well, all right. So we walked away, and I get in my car, pulling out of the driveway, Jim's on the street, he's pulling away, and then the lady comes out of the house running at my car. She's like, hey, wait, I want to do the deal. And so then I got Jim to stop, and we signed the deal just like that. She came running, she literally came running off of the front steps. And what I learned was that Jim's attitude was like, he really didn't care or not if he got the deal. He really didn't. And he just walked away, and there was only $3,000 difference, and I was like, come on, Jim, take that. I need this money, so.
Good story. And, Walter says, why do you do what you do? I mean, I keep going back to that, but I love watching stories like this and watching young people learn. When I first met Doug, it was at Potbelly over a sandwich, and he told me, I'm getting ready to quit my job. Remember that? And you did it, man, so congratulations. Thank you. Love it. That's a duplex that Cheryl and I have rented, and we absolutely love having that house. It's been a great house, and I'm so glad she came running off her porch, and we got it, because it's going to be a long-term buy and hold with a self-directed IRA. Mo, why don't you share, you've done tons and tons and tons, hundreds of deals. Share a couple of negotiating tips if you wouldn't mind.
I think the biggest lesson that I learned early on, because I really had no real sales experience, and negotiating wasn't in my vocabulary as a Marine. I just, I really looked within as to what is going to get me to the goal, and I think the biggest thing that popped out is providing value and service. Right, because that's what we do. So the relationship, whether you call it rapport building, whatever you call it, it's providing value. So I think if you give enough away, not giving away, I'm saying, make multiple, I'm gonna buy it for this, because I did that. Buy it for this, I'll option it for this, I'll list it for this, nothing like that. What I mean is, giving away options, information, being of service, communicating that value to them, I think, and not being so quick to, I've ever dealt with somebody that's an engineer, right? There's no way you're gonna walk out of the negotiating table or the kitchen table with a contract that day. And, a lot of us think, I gotta get a contract today, and it's not gonna happen. It's something that they're gonna need to sleep on, because an engineer needs to study the facts, analyze it, sleep on it, feel good about it, and communicate it to their significant other, and get some votes going, and decide, and then call you back in 2 days, maybe a week or 10 days. So having the ability to, like Jim said, to walk away, I think give the facts, give the service, feel like you've given value, and then based on that, I think it'll come back. I know it will come back to you. So that's my main focus, is providing value. So, and then also giving options, meaning that I know it's always better for me to buy it as deep as I can, but for me, I just want to do a deal, and to be part of the transaction and be of service. So I go in with the approach of I've given them. I want to first of all say, listen. A couple of outcomes may come from this appointment here today. One is, you may not like my offer, you may not like me. Based on that, I just want to make sure that you're going to be comfortable without feeling like you're obligated to tell me no, that you don't like my offer. And immediately I sense that the sales walls drop, because everybody hates to be sold, right? So that's the major, aha moment that they get, that I'm not there trying to, buy their house, their car, and everything else that they own. The other is, I say, listen, I hope you're gonna be okay if I can't buy the house, that I tell you directly and honestly that I can't buy it. And that usually also says, of course, I want you to be honest with me. Who doesn't want, honesty across from them? And then I say, listen, if we can figure it out together, if you like my offer and I like the house, then maybe, we'll figure out what the next steps when you want to sell it by and everything. Now, I didn't say any contract, did I? Because that's a sales approach again, right? So those are the things that I feel like that are the most important, I think, in all this in the beginning, along with building rapport, is having that clarity up front, because I think from there, you can just have, the next question is, so why'd you call me? Why am I here? You can gladly and easily be able to say that and being able to resolve whatever a person's needs. By the way, this approach, I think in my opinion, would work in anything. It's not just buying houses or anything else. I think you can use this for, I did the worst thing. My wife is now here, and she hears that all the time. So I was getting away with it for a while.
Yeah, it does work with anything, and I know somebody on this stage who likes to have fun negotiating. lots of odd things, including drinks on an airplane. Walter, you want to talk about how you do that real quick?
You know, negotiations is, we ought to have that as an everyday life. Every single day we ought to do it. I asked for a senior discount at breakfast today. She gave it to me. Okay, 10% off. Last night at Applebee's, we were driving in through the tornadoes. We stopped it and said, "What about a 10% discount, senior discount?" Okay, and you just get in the habit of doing that stuff. And my buddy Scott Britton and I would go to these seminars. We get so good at negotiating, and we set a pretty high standard to get the flight attendant to bring us a drink without us asking for it. That is pretty high standard. So what we did is we got a little yellow sticky and wrote "free drink J," just the letter J, and stuck it on the back of the seat, and the flight attendant comes around, "What's that?" She picks it up. "Who's Jay?" "You know Jay." "Now let's see, do I know Jay?" "Yeah, free drink." "Okay, what do you want?" And so it's just fun. She knew I was playing with her. And it's okay to do that. And what I like to get, sometimes we do actually get real coupons, drink coupons, Delta, and I put on there 2 for 1. And so, just try. Nobody objects to that, and all they can say is no. But it pays really big dollars if you can do that with houses. Big dollars.
That's why I go on the IRA Fun Cruise, because Walter runs it, and it's just fun, F-U-N. Oh my goodness. All right, Kevin, back to you real quick. How do you keep your leads organized, and how do you know when to go back and call somebody a second time and things like that?
Yes. You know, I used to do the little 3x5 index cards. I do spreadsheets. I'm trying to graduate to Podio, but it's a learning curve. I've got a little in basket. I print off a lot of paper leads, believe it or not. And I mean, I just usually close most of my deals. I just usually take them to the end point. I'm different because I deal mainly with distressed sellers. I don't usually meet them at the house. It's usually all over the phone. And so the biggest question I ask is, what were your plans with this house? I know their plans failed miserably because it's usually vacant, beat up, owed taxes. And it's like the stages of death and dying. And a lot of times it is an inherited property that someone lived there. I met a lady, her dad owned it. He was in Kentucky, she was in St. Louis, and the house was in Indianapolis. And I said, "What were your plans?" And she says, "I just don't know. I haven't been in the house for so long. And Dad's in Kentucky, and you know, we had someone board it up." And she goes, "I really just need to see it." I said, "Well, why don't you meet me out here when you come into town, and we'll look at it." And she went in there and she grabbed a couple antiques. And I said, "So what do you want?" She goes, "This house should be," it was probably one of the worst houses I bought. And she said, "It should just be bulldozed." And I said, "It's close." And I knew a contractor who had all the materials, the siding, the windows, and the roofing. He worked for me, and he could fix the whole house. And she grabbed an antique, and she said, "I've got to go to this Board of Health hearing. I don't know what to do." I said, "Well, let's deed it to a trust, and I'll take it." And she couldn't come with any plans for it. She even handed me a $100 bill and said, "I want to pay you for getting me in the house, going to court with me." And I said, "I'm going to make money in the house." I made $4,000 on the house, but she needed to separate her house and her feelings from the house. So I asked what the backstory is, and sometimes it helps them to let go. One of the things I use a lot of people say, "Well, we're planning on fixing it up, and my brother and I are going to fix it up and rent it." I'm like, "Have you ever done that before? It's not too fun." And I go, "Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't your mom be happy if we found a nice young couple and we fixed that house up the way it used to be, and now we got a family in there who can own their own home, on their own home?" And so that works a lot. It's finding out what the pain is, what the distress is, and solving that problem. Like the other people said, it's not about the money a lot of times. It's about solving a problem.
Good. One more question for Walter. Walter, the word because is powerful. You taught me that. So can you talk about that and how you use it a little bit?
The power of influence. Anybody read that book? Cialdini, Cialdini? This was a college professor that his premise was that we do very predictable things. And if I give you something, then you, because of the law of reciprocity, want to give something back to me. And so that goes back to giving, giving advice. What was the question? See, oh yeah, because. And what he said is, and so he gets all these college students to do things like go get in line, and then so you're in line and start asking people if you can break in line to get to the front of the cafeteria. And so he tracks this stuff, and he said the person who says, may I get in line, had a certain amount of success. No, get back there. May I get ahead of you because, and gave whatever the answer was. It didn't matter what the answer was, it was because. The wording, the word because validates, because I got to go to the bathroom, or because I got to go to class. And when you add that word because into anything, people say, oh, okay, yeah, okay. I'm here to buy your house because my granddaughter wants a house to live in. Because. And you just, that's part of it, it's part of my natural vocabulary now. You make it up.
And shake your head yes, right? That helps a little? So when I told Walter, I said, can you talk about because? Shook my head yes, right? You guys have any questions for the panel? Anybody?
Yeah, you mentioned that Kevin's available for mentoring. Are any of the panelists available?
Any of you guys? Iman is.
I am, but
Great.
I am as well. Any other questions? Go ahead.
This might be unrelated, but how do you reach out to probate lawyers asking?
How do you reach out to probate lawyers, or do you? Does anybody up here?
I have done that unsuccessfully.
Unsuccessfully? Gavin?
Most states put out a bar list of the people who specialize, the attorneys who specialize in certain areas, and just mail them. Say, look, I buy houses cash. If you get in a situation where you come with a property, you can just send them a mailer, and usually they'll follow up with you.
Where is Amy and Andy?
yeah,
Real
that's what I was
quick.
gonna say. They're very-
Okay, and then we'll get to Mary Hart. We've been talking about trust a little bit here, but we're going to dig in deep in trust. And I love having Mary Hart here. She is an absolute gem you guys are going to love. All right, Amy and Andy, you guys had like a really unique way of mailing to lawyers, which answers this question. Could you describe what you do?
We contact attorneys directly, and we research first all of the folks in the office. We're used to dealing with attorneys, but we'll speak with either their paralegal or someone in their office.
I've been in trouble a lot.
Well, we send a specialized package to them that introduces us and what we can do for their clients. Sometimes we've done things like send a food gift ahead of the mailing or along with it. We've always been very professional in describing our company and how, really focusing on how we assist them to assist their clients. Because their goal is, they have a fiduciary responsibility to get the most money they can for their client, but they often just go the way of an auction or something because that's all they know to do. So when they know they have an option with someone who can offer multiple options to their client, they're usually very responsive. So we'll meet with them, go to lunch, explain what we do, etc. Now we have attorneys who call us as soon as they have a probate client in their office. One in particular will just pick up the phone before he's even heard the story and just say, hey, Amy, or Andy, is Andy there too? I got this woman right here, Liz, right? And he'll just say, can you talk to her about what she could do with a house in a particular area, in Baltimore? So it works very well. You build a lot of credibility when you're able to meet with an attorney and show him all the reasons you do what you do and how you can help him reduce the time to get that estate settled for his client.
I would like to add one thing to that. A great thing about if you can get some attorneys on your side, it's a one-to-many relationship. So where they might have, they're not a one-off. They have clients. They deal with estates all the time. So things are going to come up, and they know if you have one attorney, they might have 30 clients over a year that they're doing estates for. the numbers just get really, really, really big and the opportunities grow exponentially like that.
You would say initiate things, some sort of.
They send a mailer with like a food gift in it. You guys from Annapolis, Maryland, or Bob? Montgomery County, okay. Mary Hart, I've been anxious to say hello. Here you go.
Well, I am a probate attorney, actually, and I get lots of letters from people soliciting me for various things, and mostly they go in the circular file cabinet because there's nothing to distinguish them from anybody else, and I don't have time to read a million letters from people. Their approach actually would work with me because they're doing something that differentiates themselves, and I would welcome a phone call. I'd much rather someone call me and tell me who they are and take 5 minutes of my time on the phone or offer to buy me a cup of coffee than send me a letter that tells me nothing about themselves. I'm in North Carolina, not too far from Maryland. But in any event, I just wanted to add that because I think the letters, for most of us attorneys, we're so busy and we get so many letters from so many people that I rarely read them. I got a letter the other day that I actually read because the guy sent me a book with it, and it was about real estate development, and so I was like, wow, I actually put that in a stack, and I will call that guy back because he took the time to do something a little different.
Very good. Bradley, how are you?
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Mom.
Mary, you said that you would welcome a phone call from someone. Sure. So if I'm calling you, you have your little gatekeepers there. I mean, how do you suggest, what would you suggest
Here you go, Mary.
I do, or someone to do, that would like to, you know?
Sure, it's the gatekeeper question. Well, first of all, I really suck at gatekeepers because I answer almost every phone call when somebody calls me and waste way too much time. But for those people who have gatekeepers, you know, you might send an email first. I will respond to an email before a letter because it doesn't take me any effort. I'm sitting at my keyboard, I just fire one back and say, hey, call my receptionist, tell them I told you to call, and they'll get through to me that way. That's what I would suggest, and just be persistent. But I think telling the attorney how you can add value is a big one, and sometimes you can't get through the gatekeepers, but do something to get through that person first. Compliment them on their website and send an email. Wow, I thought your website was awesome. Something, compliment us. We're all suckers for that, you know, and you can get through to us if you make us feel good.
All right, good stuff. All right, we are going to, thank you, panelists. You guys go ahead and have a seat. I just want to firm up the morning here. Thank you. I mean, I learned stuff.